All right, hi everybody, Case here with Fast Brewing and Winemaking. Thanks for checking out our video. We're gonna run through a full brew, doing a pretty basic kit. It's not an all grain kit, but it's from our good friends at LD Carlson, a brewer's best kit. They're delicious. So we're gonna basically run through all the steps. It's very simple. Different kits will have different ingredients in it, so don't get too hung up on having exactly what we have. But basically, if you follow the instructions that come with each kit, they're literally step by step, it will guarantee that you have a very good, successful brew, and we're gonna show you how to do that with the FastFerment system. So the first thing to do on brewing day, we're gonna steep our grains. So we got our grains here, and we've got the little bag, so this is called a muslin bag. So basically it's nice to roll it back. We wanna get the grains into the bottom of it. Got a pair of scissors. Down. So basically get the grains in, down to the muslin. Get the little ones that we spilled there, up and in. Want to make sure we get everything. Perfect. Awesome. So these are ready to go in. So we'll bring this over. We want to make sure our temperature's right. All your kits will, the instructions will have the temperatures in it, but for this kit we want to be between 150 and 165, so it looks like we're bang on. So we can get our steeping going, so the grains go in, and then it's nice to just tie it around the side of the pot here so that we can get it out easily at the end. So we're gonna let our grains steep for 20 minutes. So get your timer on. It depends on what you're brewing again, but yeah, we are gonna steep for 20 minutes. All right, so we've got it to our nice rolling boil, looking real good. So we're gonna get our first hops in, the Centennial hop. And they are gonna boil for another 50 minutes after this. Getting nice and in, a little stir. And we're just gonna make sure it keeps nice rolling boil for the next 50 minutes until we add our second hops. Right on. All right, so we've been boiling for 50 minutes. We got 5 minutes left. We're gonna put on our UK yeast, basically just our other type of hops here. In it goes. Keeping a nice rolling boil going. And we will be ready to crash in about 5 minutes. All right, so our boil is done and we're ready to do our cold crash. We're gonna do it the old-fashioned way, just putting it in an ice bath. You can also have a wort chiller, which makes it a little bit quicker, but we think this works just as well. So basically, we take her off the stove, we go over, we got a little ice bath prepared. So it sits in nice and gentle. And then we are going to keep an eye on the temperature. So basically we're looking for it to hit about 70 degrees. So we're at 180 right now. So we've got a little bit of time to wait until that cools down. All right, we got our cold crash pretty much done here. We'll just check our temp to make sure. So bang on right in the mid 70s, which is perfect. So we're going to take our wort port into the fermenter. Before we do that, we want to make sure the valve's closed. We will open the valve a little bit later, but for now, while we're pouring, we want it closed. So pretty much we'll just grab the big pot here, get a good handle on it, and then pour it in. Right on, so we got our wort in our fermenter. We're getting close to being able to ferment. Basically a couple last things yet. So we need to top it up to the 5-gallon mark. So all the markings are on the back here. So we gotta make sure our water comes up to pretty much bang on right there. Awesome, terrific. So that goes in, and then before we seal everything up and get the yeast in, we want to do a hydrometer reading. So you can have take a sample off of the top. We like using our sample ports because they're real easy and simple. That's what they're made for. So pull off a small sample of beer here. Wort, it's not quite beer yet. And then we can check our hydrometer reading. Might have put a little bit too much in there, but pretty close. Right on. All right, so we're all set, pretty much ready to go. So our last step here, we need to add our brewer's yeast to it to start the fermenting. This is what is going to turn all the sugar into alcohol for us. So just sprinkle it on nice and gentle. And then with the beer, it's good to stir the yeast in, make sure it's mixed up well, deposited. And once you got it all stirred in and mixed up, then we're going to put the lid on. We are going to wait for the fermentation to start. It's good to place the fermenter in a cooler area. Don't want it too hot. And we also want it out of the sun. So the sun's not going to get through the FastFerment, but not a bad idea just to keep it out of the sun a bit. So we got our airlock on there with sanitizer on it, and the top goes on. We are going to have activity in that in no time. The fermenter is ready. This is where it's going to stay for the duration of its fermenting. Last thing we need to do to get everything going is just open the valve up. This will let everything drain down into the bottom as the fermenting happens over the next few weeks. All right, so we're going to do our a change out for the collection ball in between the primary and secondary fermentation. So this is way easier compared to using buckets and carboys because you don't have to rack, transfer, do all the cleaning. So this is a breeze. So a couple tips on it. First, we don't need to do a collection ball switch out between primary and secondary unless the sediment is above the valve. So as we can see here, the sediment's collected above the valve, so we're going to need to do a collection ball change out at least once or twice to make sure all the sediment drops and we can get rid of it. We don't want that in our beer that we're drinking. The other thing is if there is a lot of sediment in here, we're going to do multiple dumps. So we're going to reattach the collection ball, leave it for 24 hours, let it settle, and then reattach it in and out. This will clear all the sediment out, so you got a real nice batch. The other thing is we showed you the O-ring that's on the bottom of the valve. A lot of people screw the fitting on really tight to get it to seal, but realistically the O-ring is what seals it, so you really don't have to crank it on that tight. It will seal right on the O-ring so you can get it off easily later on. So to perform the collection ball switch out, it's very simple. The valve goes off, turn the valve off. Once the valve's off, loosen the collection ball a little bit so the fitting pops off. And then I like having a plate under it so we don't make a mess. So we simply just screw the fitting off and eventually it is going to drop right off there. Perfect, just like that. All right, so we're just, now that we got the collection ball off, we're going to give it a little clean out so we can reattach it. So basically we're just going to dump the sediment, all the trub out of the ball, and then we are going to rinse it out a couple times. Want to make sure it's as clean as possible. We got to clean it really good, and then we got to sanitize it so when we hook it back up, it's all perfect for our beer. Okay, the brewer's wash, and then a little bit of sanitizer. And our collection ball is ready to be reattached. All right, so now that we have our collection ball all cleaned out, sanitized, and ready to go on, we have a couple tips. So when the collection ball is reattached, we open the valve up. There's going to be some air, oxygen, that goes up through your wort. It's going to hit your CO2 and then up through your airlock. So we don't think it's a big deal, but for some people, we have 3 suggestions on ways to prevent the oxygen exposure. 1, fill the collection ball with a finished beer. Say you're doing a lager, put a lager in the ball. Or if say you're doing a Chardonnay, put a Chardonnay in the ball. That way when you reattach it, you're not introducing any oxygen. The other way, you can add distilled water to the ball. And the third way is to just purge the ball with CO2. So if you had a little CO2 gun, just spray some CO2 in there. When that's all complete, you're ready. Screw the ball on. It screws on very easily, not too tight or else you'll have a hard time later. And then we just open the valve up and the secondary starts. So it looks like we've got a bit of a clog on this one because it's not draining right away. So basically we say do a couple things. 1, tap it a little around here. You should be able to dislodge it because this oxygen wants to rush up through the bottom of it. The other big thing is literally just waiting a little bit. It might take 4 hours, 6 hours, it might take 24 hours, but eventually this air bubble will pop up, break through your sediment, and the rest of it will drain down. If it doesn't pop after a few hours, the best thing that we suggest is going in through the top, just giving it a little poke. Long plastic spoon works great, but it'll just pop through, dissolve down into the ball, and it works great.
So we're finally here. It's bottling day. Everything's fermented. We've hit our gravities and we're ready to go. So we've got our conical elevated a little bit. We want to make sure it's high enough that we can get the bottles under and use gravity to help us assist in that. You can also have it on the wall, on a table, bench, chair, whatever works best for you. So basically we're going to open this up, add our carbonation sugar, stir it up, put on our filling hose attachment, and then go right into bottles. So before we put our carbonation sugar in, we want to shut the valve off. So the valve goes off, that way nothing goes, when we add our sugar, it doesn't go down into the bottom. Now we're gonna open it up. We haven't opened this up since we started, so that's just what we're looking for. There she is, there's our gasket. Perfect. Now, get our little carbonation sugar going on. And we're gonna stir it in while we are going. I wanna make sure that this gets mixed in real nice and well. The bottom. Awesome. So when we are sure that it's nice and mixed in well, we can get our bottling hose attachment and get it on. Perfect. All right, so everything's mixed in, carbonation sugar's in. Now we're just gonna attach our bottling filling hose. So it's real easy. We like to do it with the plate underneath just to minimize any sort of mess that comes. Basically, plate slides in, valve's already off, so that's perfect. We are gonna unscrew the collection bolt and it is gonna drop onto this plate a little bit. Perfect, just like that. We can slide it out sideways, right on. And then it's as simple as this. We've got everything sanitized to go on, so the filling hose attachment just goes right on the bottom. There we go. Get it on nice and smooth. Adjust it. All in place, good. Okay. Nice and snug. And we want to make sure our filling hose clamp is off before we open anything up, and we got a little bit of room for the bottles. Basically, we will clamp that off, nice, perfect. And now before we open it up, we don't need to open it up the full way. There's a lot of force up here, and this little hose clamp probably have a hard time holding it. So the best thing to do is just open the valve up just a little bit so we get a little bit of flow coming in, but not a whole ton. That'll take the pressure off the valve, so we still get a bit of flow coming down, but not everything for sure. Perfect. Once that's come, we can start to grab our bottles and do some bottling. So the hose goes in, and we're gonna play with our fitting here. Now we want to make sure we try to fill these bottles absolutely as full as we possibly can. We want to go right up to the neck of the bottle. Woo. Awesome. Right there. Great. All right, so the cap goes on. Nice and centered. Cap goes on. You can feel it's good inside. Perfect. Just like that. We've got our bottle of beer. That will be ready by the time we carbonate it and let it bottle age a little bit, about a month or so. 2 to 3 weeks is good, but about a month. And that is how you fast ferment. Thanks very much for watching our videos. If you guys ever needed a hand, need help at all, suggestions, feedback, anything, please feel free to reach out to us. Our 1-800 number literally goes to our cell phones, and we're always on our email, so drop us a line, say what's up. Thanks very much. Take care. Cheers.